What's up, SnowTrax fans? Luke here, bringing you guys my first in-season walk-around of this year. The ones you've seen from me previously were filmed at the end of last year. They're still just as valid. This time, we are in season 2024, and I have right here in front of me Polaris's Indy Adventure 650. I'm really excited about this model. This is something that I know it doesn't sound like something that should excite me, but it is. But before I go any further talking about this, I just want to say this part, which you always hear, and you got to say it. It's my job. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel. It does a lot of help to us, and make sure you don't miss anything. If you like this video at the end and it gave you some information you didn't otherwise have, or I just made you cringe, hit the like button, and certainly turn the bell on so you don't miss anything that we got coming up, because we do have a lot of content like this and other stuff coming up rapid fire throughout the winter, and you don't want to miss that. So on to the vehicle that we have in front of us right here. As I said, 650 Indy Adventure. It's obviously on the Matrix platform. This thing comes equipped just how you see it, which is great because there's been a few years, now I'm not going to say the last couple of years because this model isn't a new model, but Polaris went quite a while without a real decent two-up sled. I mean, you had Skidoo had their Grand Touring SE, which was like a purpose-built two-up sled, just all the bells and whistles. It was like driving a couch. While Polaris had basically nothing, and Arctic Cat had their great big touring sled as well, and Polaris just had like, oh, you can buy a two-up seat and put it on your sled. That's all they had. So this is nice to see that they've built a purpose-built two-up sled. With that said, it is convertible. So we've got back here, you know, your Polaris two-up seat. This is the same seat that you buy to add to your one-up Polaris. So this is removable, and I really like that. I think that's cool. So you get it from the factory just like this, but if you just want to ride one up, you can just pop this guy right off with two latches down here. It's super easy, it's quick, and you get a sled that is a one-up sled, which is how I would ride it most of the time. The two-up seat itself is great because it does have built-in hot grips. It also has a built-in electric heated shield plug right here, which can also power other things. In case anybody was wondering, let's say you had a pair of heated gloves or a pair of heated socks or something like that that required that same plug. This will work. It's not just for your shield. It's a 12-volt plug. So that's cool. One thing I will say, though, when we talk about the two-up seat on this model, it's one of the things I'm disappointed with about this model. One of the very few things, this seat is not adjustable in any way. So you can't move the backrest back and forth. The hand grips don't go up and down. It is what it is. It fits most people. From the people that I've had on the back with me over the years, most people say it's fine. But I really think Polaris, especially on this model, the Adventure, should have some adjustment built in the seat. I think the seat should have adjustment built in regardless, but if you're gonna sell it as an Adventure 2-up model, this seat should at least have the hand grips capable of going up and down a few inches. When my daughter, who's smaller, rides behind me, her arms are basically at full extension when she sits on the seat. So it's very hard on her shoulders, on her elbows, and on her wrists. And she ends up just sliding forward and holding on to me. If you're a larger person, like a bigger, not adult even, but like a teenager or something like that, it's fine. It fits just fine. The other thing I will say, and this isn't a slight to Polaris in any way, because all manufacturers don't do this, but the footrests, which are really good on this sled and actually super grippy for the passenger, but why are they not adjustable? How come nobody makes an adjustable passenger footrest? All you'd have to do is put a track right here with some like locking points in it and make this a platform that can go up and down. I'm pretty sure like motorcycles like Harleys and stuff might have that kind of an option, but there's a way to do it that would allow this to be adjusted for smaller riders. Again, my youngest daughter, her legs just touch this, just barely. So she's basically like stretched right out on this sled. And she's not old enough to have her snowmobile license, so she's the one who gets to ride on the back. My older daughter, who does fit on here perfectly, has her license. She doesn't need to ride behind me. Anyway, those are some things about two-up riding, not just on a Polaris, but for today on the Polaris that I would like to see changed. Otherwise, we can continue on around the sled. So the previous Polaris Adventure model did not have a two-up seat from the factory. It was simply a one-up sled, and if you remember back to the old Adventure in the Pro Ride chassis with the articulating rear end, it came with those saddlebags on the side and then the rack on the back, and it was kind of like, to me, it was very adventure-y because it had all this extra storage. when they went to the Matrix with the solid tunnel, the first Adventure model they released just had a tunnel bag. That was really, aside from some bolt-on stuff on the front, that was really all you got. And it was a tunnel bag you could add to any of Polaris's sleds. So to me, it was like, why buy the Adventure? Just buy whatever model you want, put a tunnel bag on, and you have the same thing. This one, I guess, is similar if you think about it, because the seat does fit on any Polaris, and this bag at the back fits on any Polaris as well. But it comes equipped like this, which is more adventure-y in my opinion. Taking a family member with you, going on a ride with friends, and being able to take your kids behind you. It does come with this bag. It's much smaller than the previous one, but these are really nice bags from Polaris. They're extremely well built. They're super durable and tough, and they keep the snow dust out and the water out. So they're really, really good. This is pretty small. I mean, especially compared to the old one. And on this model, this is a 137, which is really interesting, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but there really isn't enough space on the tunnel to put another bag, or a larger bag. So you are kind of limited in that way. But if you're not going out for a multi-day adventure, if you're just going out for rides and you're going to take people with you on the back, this is more than enough space to haul all your gear you might need. If you're taking kids, you can put some extra gloves and mitts and hats and stuff like that in here. Lots of hot pocket things, you know, that keep your hands warm. Anyway, those will fit right in there. Interestingly, there's a spot on this hand grip here for another switch, and I'm trying to figure out what that might be for. Maybe separate, I don't know what that would be for. I'm going to try and look into that, because that's very interesting. I don't know what other switch. Light bar. It's for a light bar that you can put on your 2-up seat, obviously, because everybody needs as many light bars as humanly possible. I know what this switch here is for a heated seat option. So that's something you can add later on down the road as a heated seat if you choose to. Again, you have another 12 volt outlet for your visor or whatever you want it to be. Obviously, this model has the 7S display, has all the functions of the typical 7S, you know, your GPS mapping, your Bluetooth, your incredibly adjustable gauge setup that's so great. I love it so much. Has smart warmers, again, controlled from the gauge, as we all know. And then over here is your control cluster also that does all of the same stuff. So the cockpit of this sled is the same as all other Matrix sleds. And as you've heard us say dozens of times before, this is one of, if not the very best cockpit in the industry in terms of comfort and ergonomics. This is just near perfection. And 7S, of course, has been our favorite display, and at the end of this season we'll be able to report whether it is or is not still our favorite display, with Skidoo's new one coming up, and spending some time with that to see just how good that works. We'll let you know. We do have Polaris's excellent Haze brake on here. Everybody loves Polaris's brake because it's the best brake in the industry. So that's basically the cockpit. There's not much else to say about that. Interestingly, there is storage under this seat. As you know, that's a feature that all Matrixes have. But to get to it, you have to pop off the 2-up seat first and then get to the storage under this seat. So it becomes a little less functional when you've got the 2-up seat on. That's not to say that it's not functional. It just don't put stuff in there that you're going to need to get to quickly or easily or frequently. So obviously you still get your storage bin behind the 7S, which is great. I really love that. That's where I keep my stuff I need to get to really quickly, is back there. Gloves, a pair of goggles, whatever. My daughter's diabetic, so I keep her diabetes stuff in here, and that works excellent. The Adventure model comes with the taller windshield, which is great, especially if you're 2-up riding. This is a really good height windshield. It's not their biggest. They have one that's bigger, believe it or not, but it's really functional, and I think it still maintains pretty good looks on the sled. The next size down is still very functional as well, and probably would be what I'd switch to, but as a factory windshield, this one works good. It also comes with the mirrors that I find almost completely useless, especially with the hand guards on the passenger's grips back here and my knees. I pretty much can't see anything through those rear view mirrors. With that said, if you're from a place where you need rear view mirrors to be legal, like Quebec, those are legal rear view mirrors. So you don't have to add anything, which is really nice. Moving around the sled more, we have QS3 shocks, front and rear. Obviously one of our favorites, everybody knows that. But one thing I noticed about these shocks that I don't think I pointed out before and might be new is this collar, this threaded body adjustment collar. This thing's huge and would make adjusting the springs super easy. Certainly a lot more than those little aluminum plate collar things that we've seen on shocks for so long, that are just brutal to use. Those are fantastic, and I'm looking forward to giving those a test when the time comes to load this thing up with extra people and gear. Suspension wise, the Adventure is the same as any other 137 matrix. There's really no differences there. Same front end, same spindles and skis, and obviously the same 136 Pro CC rear end, which is great. One thing I noticed on this is that while it does have stiffer springs, it doesn't have any helper springs. And that's kind of interesting because when you load up another adult on here, you're going to need some extra help. So if you were going to be riding 2-up often, you might want to go, if it doesn't already have the heaviest springs, you might want to go with the heaviest springs, or certainly turn up the adjusters to the heaviest setting. As it sits right now, it's in the middle setting. And I find that if it's the regular springs, and I'm not sure, I didn't look into that, it's a hard piece of information to find, but if those are the springs that are on all Pro CCs, I run them in their middle setting anyway. If those are the heavier ones to deal with the 2-up possibilities, I would run those in the lightest setting for 1-up and then probably in the heaviest setting for 2-up. That's something I'm going to have to test this year while we're riding this sled and see how that changes things and see how it works. Overall though, this sled has all the kind of features that you're going to want and need for 2-up touring. It really doesn't leave anything out. It is a very comfortable sled to ride 2-up, but what I love about it is that it's also a great 1-up sled. It is basically just a Matrix 137 650. Now we didn't talk about the 650 motor, and reality, we don't need to because we've done so much talking about that motor over the years, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. This is the single best 600 class motor in the industry. And it's not just because it's a 650. It is torquey and it runs smooth, it's easy to control, it's fun. Everything about the 650 is just fantastic. One thing about the 650 that I find very interesting though, as I ride it and other 850s back to back, is that depending on where you are, this is all the motor you really need. Especially on a sled like this where you're probably not going to be out railing trails at like full throttle corner to corner or jumping ditches with 2 people on the back, though if you do, I want to see a video. But the 650 is the perfect motor for this because it is so buttery smooth. Its engagement is smooth. It's just such an easy motor to ride controllably and easily and not annoy your passenger on the back. And then when you pull the 2-up seat off, the 650 is a powerhouse that keeps you having fun with the 850 guys all day long. So that's a really, obviously they make this as an 850, but choosing it as a 650, I think makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as color goes, obviously with Polaris, when you spring order sleds, you can choose your colors. We didn't get to choose our colors this year. They sent us whatever colors they wanted. I don't mind this color combo. The color I really like on it is the light blue. It's this color I'm not crazy about, at least not mixed with a light blue. This color would be cool with, I don't know, something different. The 2 blues, or the steel blue and the light blue together, I think is a little strange looking. It's not ugly, it's just strange looking. But the light blue is a really nice color, and I'd like to see it. I think all black with the light blue would have looked really, really slick. So that's an option that you can choose. Obviously, it's not a slight to Polaris, it's a style thing, and everybody can choose whatever they want. You can choose the ugliest sled that I think is ugly and you might think is beautiful, and it just doesn't matter to me at all what you pick, as long as you're happy. So yeah, that's basically the 650 Adventure in a nutshell. This sled, as a 137, that was one thing I wanted to talk about before we're done. This sled being a 137, I think, is really interesting because a lot of other companies' 2-up sleds are, 141, 144, 146 in that length, especially when you consider that Polaris has the Assault that is a 146 and does have space for the 2-up seat. So we have an Assault, or had an Assault last year with a 2-up seat, and it worked amazing. And what it gave you is the ability to have the 2-up seat and the large tunnel bag. So to me, I'm actually surprised that Polaris didn't choose to go with the Adventure in the 146 and base it off an Assault platform. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just an interesting choice. And when you pull this one apart and put it in 1-up mode, obviously you get a great 137 sled. So there's nothing wrong with that. But an Assault platform, in my opinion, might have made more sense. That's the only thing I got to say about that, because everything else about this sled is excellent. I'm really happy with it. I can't wait to put a ton of miles on it. My daughter, as I said, has got her license this year, so she's going to be riding her Indy Evo, and my other daughter's going to be sitting right there, having the time of her life with her heated socks and heated gloves. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you guys some insight into this sled, answered maybe some questions, but if nothing else, got you hyped up to see more content, more footage of it, and to get out and ride your own sleds this year. As you can see, we've got some snow. We need a whole lot more, but it's coming. I'm fingers crossed. I'm a snow optimist, so we're going to get it, and I'm excited. With that said, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.